Morning, friends. Not sure if you guys can see this okay. It's a little bouncy. I apologize. The roads of Louisiana are not exactly the greatest roads in the world. Our tax dollars are mismanaged, and we have dramatically settling surfaces all over the place over here. Our roads are constantly being worked on, but nevertheless, I won't bore you with how our tax dollars are being squandered. You guys may or may not have noticed that we had another, quote, mass shooting yesterday in New Mexico. It happens on the day after the Biden administration puts information out begging to oppress anyone below the age of 21. What I mean by that is they bragged in this executive order op-ed type writing that they put out. It was on the heels of last year's, if you remember, the gun control bill that was signed into law by the potato in chief, that all of the Republicans in Congress and the Senate voted for. Not all of the Republicans. That I shouldn't word it like that. What I meant to say was all of the turncoat Republicans voted for. And there was a lot of jibber jabber in there, but in essence what they are trying to do is oppress anyone below the age of 21 and take the freedoms that they have to protect themselves and their families from them. Now, why does that matter, and what does that have to do with the new Mexico mass shooting that happened yesterday? Well, almost as if on cue, the grown man who performed this murder, 3 people killed, I forget how many others were injured. It's said that he had 3 firearms with him. The only one that they named is the AR style weapon. That seems to be becoming pretty synonymous with any time something is used that's not an outright AR-15, like a Kel-Tec Sub 2000. That's pretty synonymous. That's the term that they prefer to use in many cases, because it still gives that thought that there was a scary black gun that was used. So what will likely happen is that they'll find out that this 18-year-old probably purchased this firearm completely legally, and they'll go, see, we could have prevented this if we wouldn't allow anyone below the age of 21 to purchase a firearm. This person, apparently, they're calling it a random act, because it sounds like this 18-year-old person took his firearm, or 3 firearms, as they keep saying that he used 3. Apparently he took them and he just walked down a street. And from what I gather, and it's because the details, again, are kind of sketchy coming out. They have not identified the gunman yet either. But it looks like he just walked down a street indiscriminately shooting at people, cars, and homes. Some homes were, some cars were littered with rounds. Again, 3 shot on sight, or killed on sight. The gunman was eventually killed. Small town, relatively speaking, 40,000 people live there. So small enough and probably responsive enough to where law enforcement wasn't taking care of gang activity or whichever, and they actually had time to respond relatively quick. So shortly thereafter, hearing the shots fired, there was a sound of sirens throughout the little community, and law enforcement officers were on scene and engaged the suspect and killed him on sight. So again, I go back to the coincidence of Joe Biden putting out his op-ed on Sunday, bragging about oppressing 20-year-olds and under from not being able to purchase firearms and not allowing them to purchase firearms, or pushing communities to not allow that. He's trying to send bribe money to these states to get these states to oppress their own citizens. Because look at it this way, guys. The federal government may not recognize the Constitution. They may do plenty of things to ignore the Constitution, but they are very much aware that the Constitution exists. And they also know that they can't prevent anyone under the age of 21 from purchasing a firearm. They know this. So what they're trying to do is put this grant money, bribe money, you can call it whatever you want. It's going to be your tax dollars and mine that they're wanting to use to sucker these states and these local communities into infringing upon the rights of their own people. So I live in the state of Louisiana. What they're doing is they're offering additional monies to go to not to allow 18, 19, and 20-year-old people to purchase firearms. That's what their ultimate goal is, because they know they can't pass any kind of a federal law in order to do that, because it's completely unconstitutional and would immediately be struck down by the courts. So it's like it's an effort they're not even willing to attempt because they know that it won't catch. So they're trying to do this at that state and local level now. So look for that to come out more and more. You're going to have more outreach from the federal government attempting to bribe your states and your counties, parishes, cities, municipalities into taking those federal dollars in order to pass more infringing laws on its citizens. But again, the timing is a little suspect. I'm getting a little weary of these coincidences, if you know what I mean. Again, the day after Joe Biden brags about wanting to oppress young people, we get an 18-year-old that just walks indiscriminately, so they say, through the streets in New Mexico, shooting at people, homes, cars. It seems a little suspect to me. My guess is they said he had 3 weapons. Oh yeah, there's probably a stabilizing brace on one of them. You can almost guarantee that. It's just amazing how these people will consistently put out garbage that we have to consume. In other words, we have to listen to their garbage, knowing full well that the coincidences that we're witnessing are really aligning themselves to not be so coincidental anymore. They really seem extremely, let's just say, planned out, if you will. Now, we don't know anything about this person yet. I'm sure we're going to hear the same old, oh yeah, you know, FBI knew who he was. You know, we had been in contact with him before. It's going to be some of the same silly stuff that we always hear. That, yeah, this person was on our radar, and we just hear it every single time. I guarantee you, just like I wrote in my book, How to Make a Monster, I guarantee you this person is from probably a home that's not the greatest. I guarantee you they were bullied, and I guarantee you they are on psychotropic drugs. There is no doubt in my mind. If not, this person is definitely planned and programmed, because that is not a natural thing to happen. You don't just take up a firearm and walk down a neighborhood street and start shooting at people, cars, and homes. But again, you've got the chick who's the governor of New Mexico that immediately came right out and said, we got to end this scourge of gun violence. We've got to do something about it. This seems to be happening every single day. Yet it happened in your state. In your state. And you're too stupid to realize that it starts with the person, not the gun. You want to ban a gun. Let me tell you the stupidity of these people. If you would have banned this 18-year-old from having a firearm, you know what probably would have happened? He probably would not have chose something less lethal. Of course, he still would have bought it illegally. He's going to kill people. It's not like the law was at the front of his mind. But this person will likely not choose something less lethal because the desire to kill is still there. Clearly, you removing a firearm has not removed the thought of killing people in that person's head. That's what these idiots don't understand. That the thought still exists, and you've done nothing to curtail that. All you've done is made it harder for them to kill people, which might make them choose that next level of something more heinous, excuse me, more lethal. It's probably easier to build a bomb than it is to acquire a firearm. I don't know how to build a bomb. I'm not suggesting anybody build one. These are all the disclaimers I have to put out there because of the wackos on the left who are going to say I'm suggesting a different form of violence. What I'm suggesting is using a little bit of common sense to realize that unless you've done anything to minimize or reduce that risk of that person wanting to kill people, you have done nothing and possibly made it worse to make this person find a more lethal way and a more massive way to take more lives than what they have. You people are so stupid to focus on these guns that you are going to start wiping out civilization, because you are allowing these evil minds to continue to exist, and you completely ignore these problems. And in many cases, I can't help but wonder if you're ignoring the people who want to kill people, because they all seem to be Democrats. They all seem to be voting the way you want them to vote. So it's almost like you don't want to eliminate a certain portion of your voting block, which would mean eliminating a lot of people who want to kill a lot of people. Just something to think about. So again, to recap, another quote mass shooting in New Mexico yesterday. An 18-year-old with an AR-style weapon and 2 other weapons allegedly walked down a street indiscriminately shooting at homes, people, and cars, killed 3 people. 2 law enforcement officers also were injured in the shooting. Law enforcement did take this person out, so the threat is no longer there. Just wanted to kind of pass that on. Guys, have a good Tuesday morning. It's a beautiful day here in South Louisiana. Hope you guys have a great day. And we'll be back later on today with some other videos. Thanks, guys.